What's up, party people? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today is season 5, episode 5, and I am super excited because I have one of my absolute favorite drummers on planet Earth, Mr. Vinnie Amico from the band Mo, who I love as
Mark,
well. So thanks for doing this, man.
thank you so much. That's freaking awesome. I appreciate you having me. And it's I don't know if you planned this. It's weird, but fifth season, fifth episode, I'm drummer number 5. Did you know that?
I did, and you know what else is serendipitous? Today the 24th anniversary of Tin Cans?
Something like that, or 23rd, 24th. I don't know what I saw. I just saw the post. I didn't even know myself.
I didn't either, and I was like,
but
dude, how serendipitous
yeah,
is that? That's
and
dope.
that was my first record. That was
I
the
know.
first record I ever made, which is
That's
pretty wild
crazy.
considering that, that it is a real record. And 6 months before that, I had never been in the studio recording a record before. So pretty cool for me.
Well, I want to get there eventually, like
Okay.
within this conversation.
Sure.
But I have a question that I'm so curious for everybody. Like, what is your earliest musical memory?
My earliest musical memory is I was little. So I was living in Utica. I must have been like probably 4 or 5. My father was he was a bebop trumpet player, hard bop, and he had a particular bunch of guys over. Most of them probably famous jazz musicians. Sal Nistico was the tenor player. I think it was it's either Vinnie Ruggiero on drums or Danny D'Imperio. I don't remember who the other players were. And I just remember like they were in my living room rehearsing for probably a gig. And, I'm like running around the musicians like this, and It was like, thinking of hard bop, like Sal Nistico is one of the premier tenor players ever. He's a legend. But, hearing that music at that young of age and remembering pieces like that, like that's probably my first musical memory.
Man, that's pretty cool. So you were raised on bop, huh?
I was, yeah.
Wow.
My parents divorced when I was young. Not that I wasn't in my dad's life after that, but like he was a hard bop guy, and so I had been seeing it and hearing it since I was born. And then once my parents divorced and my mom moved away, I would spend my summers with my father, and he was gigging all summer. So, since the time I was 10 or 11, I was just in jazz clubs or in restaurants seeing bebop, with like J.R. Montreux, like legendary guys. J.R. played with Tommy Flanagan for years, and my father played. Rick Montalbano was a keyboard player, and he was Lou Rawls's band director and had played a bunch of other stuff too. And his son is actually married to Jane Monheit now and plays drums with her. And we have a
Man.
I'm deeply rooted in jazz and bebop, really, even though I didn't study it. I just, it's in my soul somewhere.
Yeah. Were you like immediately drawn to like more percussion than you were like a horn?
Yeah, I was drawn to drums immediately. Like that's the thing I'd always watch and the drummers were always amazing. It was just like, I was like mesmerized by the drums.
Yeah. Huh.
Even as a little kid. I didn't start till I was 9 or 10, but it was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not even sure that I knew that I was, except for when it came time to play an instrument, I picked the drums.
Yeah. So did you, like, when you were young and you got a kit, like, did you have like a little like cocktail like bebop kit? Like what did you learn on?
I had a 4-piece. It wasn't a cocktail kit. And I got it from my mom bought it for me for Christmas.
Nice.
Not my dad. And it was but her boss's son was a really good drummer, and he had sold the kit to my parents because he had gotten a new one. So
right.
And I stayed up. I got it for Christmas. I was in 5th grade, so I was 10 years old, and it was like 4 a.m. You wake up early for Christmas, and I played it from 4 a.m. till about 10 a.m. when my parents were finally like, "You got to stop. We haven't slept yet. We were up all night." Plus, they were they had been drinking, so they were like toast by 10 o'clock. I mean, they were in bed, but they just couldn't sleep. I'm freaking wailing away,
Yeah.
So
Oh man, that's killer.
yeah.
So early on, like let's talk about like the records that you were like raised on, because
Mhm.
that's always interesting to me. Like we were talking before this about like my love of Mo and Pearl Jam
Sure.
and like how worlds collide there as you grow up. Like for me, for instance, like I've been thinking a lot recently about when there's bands that are recording records and they put their record out, like Pearl Jam's last record, Gigaton. Dance of the Clairvoyants sounds like a Talking Heads tune.
Sure.
And I'm like, what were they listening to
Right.
while they wrote this record? I'm so curious. So like throughout your history of like listening and like consuming music, like I'm so curious like how this stuff ends up in your hands. Like
Right.
what did you really like dive deep into when you were a kid?
Well, I was I got into Rush when I was in like 8th grade or 7th. I don't know, 8th probably. Let's see. So in 8th grade, I was 13. I had to be 80. Like Moving Pictures had just pretty much come out. So, and then Exit Stage Left came out and MTV had just come out. So all that stuff was like all happening at the same time.
Right.
So I got really into Rush and Led Zeppelin, you know, as everybody did. But I also had 2 older brothers that listened to a lot of Yes and Genesis, were their 2 main big bands. So there was those 4 bands, which were what I probably listened to the most back then.
Mhm.
You know, and we listened to radio, but we got all our pop music from MTV back then, you know, because it had started and it was so integral in the music that we were listening to, you know, all the 80s stuff, all that stuff. Like, even though I didn't buy those records and stuff, like I know all those songs and you know, I listen and I'm like, I hear a song and I'm like, oh, that was a big MTV song. And the video is right in your memory, in your face. You're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right. So, but mostly, you know, I did a deep dive into Rush through, what was the record that came after Signals? Grace Under Pressure. And then I kind of got out of it because that happened around 9th grade. And I started listening to, I was playing more music, and there was a band that was playing Grateful Dead in my high school that I got into. So I had to start learning those songs. And then, you know, then I went to see my first Dead show in 85. And then I was on the bus, you know, so I started, you know, and then.
So you got hooked then. So that's
I started
crazy.
Well, I mean, everybody I went to high school with kind of became a Deadhead, and, you know, and I started playing that music a lot. And so I started diving into all the live stuff from all the eras. And then I started seeing them a lot. And then I went to college in the late 80s when the Grateful Dead really took off. So we were following them all over the place. Plus I was playing in like the best Grateful Dead tribute band in Buffalo for 8 or 10 years. So it was like, it all happened all together, you know? So,
man, that's crazy. It's so interesting to hear about you being like 5 and being surrounded by this hard bop stuff, which is so heady. And for like a 5-year-old kid to be exposed to that, and as you're growing up, just like constantly having that kind of music surround you, but then going to like prog rock stuff.
Yeah, but the weird thing is that stuff all like the bebop is always like in there. So like when you listen to Led Zeppelin and you listen to the way John Bonham plays, you hear Tony and you hear Elvin in it all the time. Like he's swinging just about everything. Or if you're listening to Jimi Hendrix and you're listening to Mitch Mitchell play, he is a jazz drummer. He's just happens to be that they add a downbeat to it and they're playing this blues based rock and roll. But I mean, if you listen to the drummers, the stuff is so rooted in bop, and you would just you hear Art Blakey, you hear Elvin Jones, you hear Tony Williams, you hear Philly Joe Jones, and all that stuff, like just the way that the fills and the rolls, and then some of the solos, you're just like, oh, that's what it is, you know?
Yeah.
And Cream, I mean, you know, if you listen to what's his head there, Ginger Baker, any of those early, especially the English guys, they were like so into jazz and rock and blues that their influence came out. Even Keith Moon, man, you listen to Keith Moon and like all that triplet stuff, even though he doesn't say he was listening to, you know, Elvin or anything, he played so much like it because he was just, you know, sloppy and spazzy and, you know, triplety all over the place, you know, and it was swung. It all swung, just all swung. So
it kind of all makes sense to me, like your trajectory now, like everything is kind of like coming together for me, like in terms of listening to you play, because Like the first time I heard you play was probably one of the first shows. Because when did you join the guys? Was it 96 or 97?
As the end of 96. I wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to join until New Year's of 96 to 97, but they were on tour. They had just done a Halloween show or some show. They were on tour and they just had it with the other drummer. And so they called me and were like, hey, because they had already known they were going to make a change. I had done the auditions and all that, which wasn't much of an audition. It was really just me playing with them because I was, I go way back with all the guys, and I went back even further with the manager, and he was always, because Mo had gone through 4 drummers before me, and he had always asked me each time there was a drummer change. He'd just ask if I wanted to do it. And I was in a different place. I graduated college, couldn't tell my mom that I was, quitting my job or wasting my college degree to go, play in a rock band. So I got a real job and I got married and,
it happens.
All that stuff. And then Mo signed the record contract and was making a change. That's when I was able to kind of make it work with my life situation at the time. And then they were like, hey, can you come? Like, we hadn't even rehearsed yet. And it was like, hey, can you come do these gigs? Cause we're ready to make the change now. So I went and did 3 gigs without any rehearsals. And then we got in for a bunch of rehearsals. And then it was really January, 97 was like the official, I was the drummer in the band, but it kind of happened a little before that.
So let's talk a little bit about how far back you go with the guys individually and everything, because it seems to me like there is this camaraderie between you all, like that it's palpable, like you can tell, like there's this love and this connection between all of you guys. So when you started getting into the band, like, well, so first of all, like, who besides the manager, who in the band was your first connection, like your Kevin Bacon connection?
Jim, actually.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. Well, so my roommate, one of my roommates in college over a couple of years of the 3 years before Jim came to Buffalo, was Jim's next door neighbor that he grew up with, Joe Schneller. And so when Jim was going to transfer from Suffolk County or wherever he was going to college to UB, he came up and stayed with Joe, which means he stayed with me and he visited. And all we ever did was play music. We were down in the basements. I mean, we partied and played music. That's all we ever did. So Jim came to visit. We're all freaking playing all the time and rocking. He's like, oh, I play. He plays the drums a little. And I'm like, shit, you don't just play, you play. And then he picks up the bass and he's even better at the bass, So then he decided to make the move to Buffalo. So he came, and his first group of friends was us, so he came in and then he was instantly in our group and we were always just playing. So he was part of the basement jams and all the stuff that we were doing. He didn't know the Mo guys, and I didn't. I mean, the Mo guys knew me because I was playing in a couple bands in Buffalo and I was always in the bars and I was always playing. So they would come out to some of my gigs. They hated the Dead band because we were just a cover band and they didn't agree with any of that, but they loved this other band, the Acoustic Forum, that I played in, because that was like the Wednesday night thing to do and the musicianship was incredible. And so that's how they knew me and I knew Jim. So at one point, this is the way I remember it, and it might not be this way because it was a long time ago, but then after Ray, their first drummer, had left, I think I either told Jim or I told Topper that you should get Jim to play in Mo. And I don't remember if I told Jim and then he called Topper. He tried. Anyway, that happened. And then Jim became a member of Mo. And then they did 3 years together. And I used to go and I'd weasel my way into sitting in with them when they'd play at Joe's. Once in a while, I'd bring a conga and a couple things and play a little. But it wasn't, there was never any intent that I would be the drummer in Mo. And they went about becoming, and to go back, I had met the guys in the band just through the music scene. And I had played with Al a couple times just because his girlfriend was kind of in the Dead scene there. So I knew Sam, his girlfriend at the time. And I remember playing with him like on a porch, like playing congas, and he was playing guitar, and we're just like jamming on Dead tunes stuff. That was probably like 1991. That was probably even before Al was in Mo.
Wow.
So, but we had only just done that. We weren't like hanging or anything. I hung out with Jim, like Jim and I were friends and we were part of the same hangout crew in Buffalo. So
Man.
he was the first one, and then he got in Mo. Then Mo started to move and take off, and then he quit to go in the yoke. Topper asked me to play. I couldn't do it. They got another drummer. He quit. Another guy, Topper asked me to play. I couldn't do it. They got another guy. And then they kind of canned him, and then I came in. And that was like after the Sony deal had been made, and they actually were making some money. Because was married, and my wife was pregnant, and I had a house in the suburbs of Buffalo. So it was like I had to make some kind of money and have health insurance or something, or I couldn't probably do it because I was in a different place in my life at the time.
Man.
So
just being
but that was 32 years ago, or 20, however many years ago now, and it all kind of worked out. So
yeah, well, being a practical human being and worrying about your family is admirable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way you got to roll. But you know what's interesting? That the relationship between you and Jim, just knowing that now, like that little tidbit makes me love that rhythm section even more.
Yeah,
because you can tell, like there's like just like this unspoken communication. Always.
Yeah, we don't even really look at each other other than for certain cues. We don't, because we can hear everything. And the thing is, like, I think we did some double drum stuff, but usually if I played with Jim, he was playing bass, and he's a phenomenal bass player. Mm-hmm. Actually, we just did some stuff last fall. We all know this trumpet player, Willie Waldman. He's used to be out in LA. We met him a million years ago. He does a free form sort of band, no songs, anything. We all make it up on the spot. Anyway, Jim and Al and I went out with him last fall and played, and Jim played bass. And I freaking love when Jim plays bass. Like, he and I like freaking lock up like mad when he's playing bass and I'm playing kit. That's and we get into all sorts of stuff that we wouldn't otherwise get into. It's really a lot of fun.
Like how so? Like more kind of.
Well, it's just because the music itself is all made up on the spot. So it's either I start a beat and he comes in and Al comes in, or he starts a groove and Al come in and it's just different. You know, it's not stuff that we wouldn't play. It's just that it's all happening on the spot. So it's like, it's not things that we ever do. You hear certain things that are like, oh yeah, well, that's kind of like what we would do in the song here and there. But it's like, we can go wherever we want because our communication with our ability to speak to each other musically is already innate and already there. So
I love that. Dude, I'm a huge Wayne Krantz head, which is probably why I love
Wayne's
Chuck.
Great. Yeah,
why I love Chuck so much. Because I love getting into dangerous situations like that where someone calls a key and he's like, all right, somebody
that's basically how it goes. So now
love it.
A few years ago, we had the Ringers open up a few shows with us. That was Wayne.
I know, I remember that.
And Michael, what the hell's his last name? Plays with
Landau.
Landau, yeah. And
he's ridiculous.
And Jimmy Herring. It was a freaking sick band.
Dude.
Sick band. It was supposed to be Keith Carlock on drums, but he had some other commitments. It ended up being Gary Novak, which is no slouch either.
Oh, shit.
Sick. Yeah, and the bass player was a French guy, wears gloves.
I don't remember his name, but I know
you know who I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah,
so that band was sick. We like get on stage, have to follow them every night, just to be like, geez. Probably made us all play better just because you can't go out there and not. But then they all ended up sitting in too, so we got to play with Wayne. We've always gotten to play with Jimmy. You know, we've known Jimmy for years, and then playing with Michael too. Guy's freaking, he's a
beast. Yeah,
he's been a big time pro player for many years. He's a monster guitar player. Super solid.
A lot of the 80s tunes we know and love, probably Mike on the guitar.
Right. So
did Chuck freak out? I know Chuck's a big Wayne fan too.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Wayne was a really nice guy, so we ended up hanging out with those guys quite a bit. Like they all were hanging, but like, Wayne was like, I want to hang out with the younger guys, even though we're all kind of the same age. But he was like, he hung out with us a few nights, Yeah, so and he had a lot of fun playing with us when we did it. So it's cool. And he did, as crazy as his playing is, he was really laid back when he played with us. Like, he didn't step out front and like blaze or anything. He just was like kind of hanging with the music and even understating himself. Like, he wasn't really stepping out and crushing, You hear it in what he was doing, but he wasn't like, it wasn't really going super crazy.
Yeah.
I had also seen Wayne play in Steely Dan probably in the mid 90s somewhere, which was like, geez, it's amazing. So
Did you ever get a chance to see any of his 55 bar gigs ever?
No, I live in Saratoga. I'm far. I wouldn't just drive down on a night. I'd have to be lucky enough to just catch it, you know.
Yeah,
So,
totally. Dude.
unless I went down there to see it. My daughter lives in Brooklyn now, though, so I could very feasibly just be down there for a few days and catch him in there with Keith and Ted, what's his name? Tim
Fabe. Yeah. Oh my God, dude. That trio will go down in history for me as one of my favorite trios ever to grace the stage. Like,
do they just like get in there and just improv everything all night long? I know Tim. I've met Tim a couple times, and he's friends with a good friend of mine, so I know kind of. And he was playing with Tedeschi Trucks for a while, and Skip, our tour manager, is their tour manager, and so I'd get to meet Tim a couple times and whatnot. But anyway, I know the musicianship of the three of them. I can't imagine if it's all improv all night long, how
it's another level
insane it is. Yeah.
Oh,
right. Plus Keith is like probably the best drummer on the planet. So,
dude, yeah, that guy has the touch, like the way that he plays and attacks.
Yeah, he's a freak, and nobody plays like him. As much as you can watch videos of him, he tells you what he's doing, and he does these things. I never heard anybody do that stuff. And then when he does it, like you try to do it, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then like, that sounds nothing like what he does and how he does it and how fluidly he can do it and how he puts those in his ideas, because it's just different than the way I would even think that it goes. And as much as I listen to Steely Dan or I've heard him play with them, it's not, it's Keith Carlock. It's not, dude. And he could be playing with Sting, or he could be playing with whoever the hell he plays with now. And you're like, oh, that's Keith Carlock playing drums. And you hear it almost instantly.
Yeah. And how weird was it to hear him play with John Mayer too? Like that was interesting. Like,
I didn't hear any of that. Honestly, I haven't heard it. I don't listen to a lot of stuff. So
yeah, it's really interesting. But how do you feel about his bass drum tuning? How low and loose that thing is.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably why he can bury the damn thing in there. Like, my kick drum's always bouncing around. I got to get it a little lower and looser to get it to stick in, because my guy goes brr, brr. Like, I got to loosen it up so it'll just bury into the thing. But
that new kit, by the way, that you posted a picture of, that thing is sexy.
Sounds good, and it plays really well. It's birch and walnut. But I set it up and I got new hardware, and it's all the same setup, and I didn't change anything. It kind of sits a little different, and it's tuned the same, but it just feels a lot better. That kit feels much better than my last kit, and I've been playing the last kit for 7 years. So I got it in the basement. I start playing, and I'm like, I never could play that stuff. Like, what the heck's going on here? And then we played this last weekend up at J Peak, and then 2 nights in Lake George at the Adirondack Music Festival, and I mean, we all played our ass off, but I felt like I was playing well because I could do things on the kit that I haven't been able to do for a while. And I don't know what changed, but it felt really good.
It's dope. It's fun getting new toys, isn't it? I mean, come on. It's
and we hadn't played in a month, so I'm sure some of it is just that, like, I was jonesing to play, jonesing to be with my friends, and So.
Oh, dude, I bet that's so cathartic. So. Bouncing backwards in the conversation, what I was going to say is one of the, Tin Cans is one of my favorite records of the records you guys have put out. There was just an energy on that record, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But when I saw you guys, my girlfriend at the time in high school, because I'm 43, but my girlfriend at the time, her uncle worked for the radio station or something, and you guys were coming through Baltimore, and I was like, oh, we should go see Mo. She'd never heard you guys. And she got tickets, but you guys moved your gig because the venue wasn't big enough. Like,
I remember that week. Yeah, it was right near New Year's, right? And we played some other place. I can't remember what it was called, but
the Bow Dome.
Yeah,
remember it was a weird dome thing.
It was, and I don't think they had done a lot of shows there, at least not jam band shows. And we moved it there. It was right at New Year's because I think we played Philly the next night, or somewhere,
which I probably was there too.
It's probably like 98 or 99, right? Something like that. It's probably 98, I think. But and that's, I remember, I mean, I don't remember a lot of things, and I just remember the switch of venues. I remember it being like high energy and like a lot going on. So
it was so fun. But that summer, where I'm heading with this is you guys played at Wilmer's Park. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember how it rained and you did an acoustic set?
Yeah, because the wind picked up and the whole Yeah, everything came down on Deep Banana Blackout. And,
Yep.
what's his name? Eric almost got killed by the freaking trusses. Oh, that was nuts.
That was
whole thing was
scary.
nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so scary.
So,
But earlier that day, before the storm rolled in, my friend and I, who's a bandmate of mine, we were walking around and we came to like the Mo merch tent.
Mhm.
And they had this shirt, which I got way too big.
Oh,
Vinny.
yeah.
I'm still pissed off that I got this in extra large. I'm a medium.
I have
best.
one somewhere upstairs in my closet myself. I have it.
Yeah. So Chuck has been my guy my whole life. And I went, I was like, oh, I'll buy this shirt. And then someone that was there, that was one of the people that was helping with the merch, was like, oh, maybe this guy, I'll sign it for you. And then Chuck turned around. And this is when Chuck had long hair.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. I was like starstruck. I'm like, I don't know, 19 or whatever.
Right.
And he drew basically.
I remember, I think I was there because I know, look at that. That is sick.
And
so he spent some time on that.
Oh,
that wasn't
dude,
just
totally.
a quick freaking sketch. That's a little bit of a thing.
Yeah, and we talked. He talked to me. We were talking guitar, talking shop and stuff, which awesome. I was so happy. And then he took a picture, but Al was sitting right there, and I was like, Al, do you want to sign it? He's like, are you sure you want me to sign it? You obviously love him. And he wrote Al is number 2. I don't know if you can see that.
That's great.
And then Chuck wrote kick Mark and put a star by my ass.
Nice.
But dude, one of the crowning moments of my life. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, that as a young musician, when you get to meet your heroes, like who have you met in your career so far that you were like, oh my God, like my life is full now. Like,
well, so it's pretty wild what happened. So I joined Mo at the end of 96, or let's just say for ease, it was January 1st, New Year's Eve, 1996, 97, just for ease. Starting June, I can tell you the date because my daughter was born June 13th and I left 4 days later for Further Festival. June 17th, we go on the road with Bob Weir, Mickey Hart, Bruce Hornsby, the Grateful Dead guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, this is fucked up because 6 months earlier, I was in a Grateful Dead tribute band playing, all over the Western New York area. Get on the first day of the tour. We're the young guns, but we're like 27. We're already old enough. And we're, we like to party and drink and stuff. So we kind of got instantly brought into the thing. The first night, they had an all-star jam every night. And I was the only drummer on the whole tour that knew all the songs. Like, even Mickey didn't play every night. So I ended up playing in the All-Star Jam the first night. With Yorma and Bobby and Bruce and all those guys.
Oh my God.
And was driving the freaking thing because I knew the songs, And every night, pretty much, except for maybe 1 or 2, I played the All-Star Jam because then they had a drummer in there that knew the songs without having to freaking go learn them or fuck them up. So, and we hung out and we became friends with Bob and we became friends with Mickey and Bruce. And so we did 6 weeks with them. And that was my first introduction to meeting one of my idols and then becoming a peer. That's when the whole thing changed from idol to peer. And then we became musical peers and we played with Bobby, I don't know, countless number of times since, Mm-hmm. And then a couple of years later, we did Phil. Same thing. Phil was nice. We played a bunch of shows with him. Since played with Phil a lot. A couple of years later, we go on the road with Robert Plant, which was the biggest, holy shit, I can't freaking believe this. He'll never talk to us. First day, he comes down into our dressing room, introduces himself. Oh, hi, I'm Robert. We're all yeah, we know who you are. And his old, I don't think he wanted to hang with the old English guys. He wanted to hang out with the young. So he come down in our dressing room after every gig. And I don't think they partied either. So he'd come and he'd be drinking his red stripe shirt all open because he's all sweaty. And he'd sit there all night and tell stories he'd hang till the end. It was every freaking night, for 2 weeks or 16 shows, however many shows it was we did with him. And that was the next big one. And I remember saying to him the first day, I was like, he was doing a meet and greet or something, and I kind of stalked behind and came up and said, hey, I'm Vinny. I'm the drummer and the opening act. just want to thank you for my career. Without Led Zeppelin, I probably never played the drums, blah, blah, blah. Shut up, mate. You know. And I'm like, no, I'm fucking serious, dude. And he's like, I appreciate it, but he wasn't a dick about it,
Right.
A few years later, we play with the Who. We never got to meet him. Al actually even got a stiff arm from Pete's bodyguard. Like he couldn't even get an album signed. So, and Robert was on tour with the Who right before that and right after that. So it's like amazing the difference between certain people, and how they act and, their whole thing. So
that's crazy, man. And you guys are all so down to earth. It's like, it's not like you're trying to, I don't know, stalk.
And there's a lot of rock stars that are down to earth, like, and those are the ones that you tend to like. You can tell on stage and off, that they're cool, and then there's ones that aren't. We're all humans on the earth. Like, what makes you any different than anybody else? Who gives a shit what you think or who, like, who cares? Just freaking. Just be a nice person.
We all have a mortgage, man. Most
of
us.
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
A lot of us have kids,
Totally. What's interesting about like thinking about the dead and like, like the incestuous, like dead, fish, like string cheese kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is I love the fact that there's this like common bond over those songs because they're great songs.
Yeah. Well, the way I explain it now, and I don't know if anybody thinks it or not, I don't really, whatever, it's just in my brain, but I find that is now the Great American Songbook. Like you can't, it used to be you'd get the real book and everybody knew the real book or new songs and you'd have it open. And now you can't go and do a gig, even if you're a jazz drummer or a player, and not know how to play Grateful Dead or know some Grateful Dead songs, know some Allman Brothers songs, know some band songs, know a couple of Talking Heads tunes. But I mean, for the bulk of it, it's still Grateful Dead. Like that's the main, and that's kind of like the Great American Songbook at this point. Like you go somewhere and you're freaking listening to some guy singing 90s hits or 2000s hits or whatever, and then he plays Scarlet Begonias or he plays Touch of Grey or something or some song, because you kind of have to do that even in your cover band thing because everybody knows this stuff. And the Grateful Dead, I mean, is as big now as they were at their pinnacle in the late 80s or early 90s,
Oh, dude, 100%. I
don't necessarily love the Dead and Company stuff, but it's still about the songs.
Dude. Yeah, no, totally. I never got to see Jerry. My older brother and sister were supposed to take me to RFK Stadium to see the Dead when Jerry was still alive, and they bailed on me. And I get it. I was a young kid. I was in middle school.
Yeah.
But like,
what year?
I bet you that was
92 by chance.
Probably, or 91.
I have a great story about RFK in 92.
All right, hit me.
So we have a couple friends. I had just moved to DC from Buffalo like a week earlier. I had seen the Dead at Rich Stadium a week earlier, moved down and got a job I don't even know if I had a job yet. I may or may not have had the job yet, but I had my wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time, had just moved. She's been there for a little while now. Graduated from college. She got a job in DC. I had been fucking around for I can say that here, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was screwing around for about 10 months or something after college, playing music 3-4 nights a week, selling weed or whatever I was doing. So I moved down to DC to get a job. I don't think I had the job yet. We go to see the Dead at RFK 92 and we have a great time. We see a great show. A couple of my friends had, imbibed in some psychedelics and had taken a second one right as the second set started. So we go through the show. It was a fun show. It's 80,000 people. We get out of the RFK. Subways are closed. We have no ride, no nothing. So we're sitting there, everybody's freaking tripping. And we're like, how the hell are we ever going to get home? Look at all these people. We need a ride. How are we going to get a ride? There's no cabs, nothing. This guy walks up to us. He goes, you guys need a ride? We're like, sure. Pulls us into this stretch limo, $3 a person. We're like, what? We're going to Northern Virginia. You know, he's like, oh, no problem. $3 a person. There was, huh? Oh, we stayed downtown. Right. We stayed in a hotel downtown. Sorry. I thought we were going back out to the suburbs, but we didn't. We stayed. My wife just reminded me we were downtown. So anyway, so we were staying in a hotel downtown.
You were so high, you don't even remember.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we get into this thing. It's Deb and I and like 3 friends. And then there's 2 randoms in the limo too. And so we're like laughing about everything. We're just like, nothing, like everything was funny. These people thought probably we needed to go to the mental institution. We were just out of our minds.
Right.
So we're driving, we're making up our own language. We're doing all sorts of weird shit. We pull up to a light and there's a car next to us. My wife rolls down the window and she goes, everybody shuts up. She goes, would you have any Grey Poupon? And the people next to us looked at us and like, what? And we just like lost our minds, like laughed till we peed our pants. We even had the 2 random people in the car like laughing their asses off. So this $3 ride each, so it was probably the guy got $20. He gave us, you know, the limo tour of DC. So he brought us down to the Capitol. We went to the Washington Monument, all this stuff, all for $3, all in a crowd of 20,000 people that couldn't get a ride. And the guy just randomly walked up to us while we're all like ablazed, you know, so there must've been like this bright light shining on us.
Dude,
like, you guys have to come and get these freaks out of here. And like,
I was so scared you were going to tell me somebody had their organs harvested.
Or no. It was like, this was one of the
go?
funnest nights of all my Grateful Dead experiences that night. And it wasn't even at the show. I could tell you some of the stuff they played, but not all of it. It's just that the people I was with, the time we had, and then that limo ride home was just like goes and etched in stone for me as one of the great times of the Grateful Dead. So
that's amazing. My brother and sister were there without me.
Yeah, ask them about if they were in a limo on the way out. Like it could have been those 2 that were in the random limo. They're like, oh my God, we met these 4 freaks and they were high on acid and laughing, you know. Whatever.
Oh my God, dude. That's so great. So let me ask you really quick, because I want to talk about tin cans, and I want to specifically talk about Wormwood really quick too. But
sure,
for tin cans, so that's your first studio session with Mo.
Yep.
Okay. And now I have, after our conversation before, it all makes sense, like I said earlier. But like,
sure,
as far as like tracking that record, so did they send you demos, or were you guys just rehearsing these tunes and you were just shedding on like coming up with
pre-produced? Like we went into this house up in the Catskills in the winter for a couple weeks and we worked on all the stuff with the producer. Like we had the songs, okay, and then John Alasia, who has produced John Mayer and does a lot of stuff with Dave Matthews and stuff, had come in as our producer. And so we worked on stuff and tightened everything up, but we worked on it all. And, you know, I had never played to a click track, none of that stuff. So we, you know, worked on stuff to a click and stuff, even though we didn't end up using it or needing it, but it was like, let's make sure everything's cool. And so we, you know, we sussed everything out for 2 weeks. Then we went in and it was Alasia, and John Sickett was the engineer, and made that record. And, you know, that was back, that was a Sony record. So it was like, wasn't an unlimited budget, but things were different. That it was like big studio. We had plenty of time to do our stuff. And, you know, we had a lot of fun making that record.
Yeah. What's interesting about that one, and it's funny because the other day I was driving home from the grocery store and listening to Tin Cans, and like I never really stopped to pay attention to Spaz Medicine in terms of the meter changes in that song.
Oh yeah.
That much, like, because it doesn't feel unnatural to be playing in 11, like playing a measure of 6 and a measure of 5. You know?
Yeah.
And 4 too, right? The dead end.
Yeah, that's 4, and then it's the 6/5 thing, and then it goes to the chorus is 6, and then and then back to 6/5.
Did you have any input in that stuff? Where you're like, hey, what if we did
that? Was
this?
already written, but the thing is like, I blame this on the 2 things: the Dead and Vinnie Colaiuta. Is that like the odd meter stuff? As long as you make it feel like it's even meter, it was easy. Like, and I played everything just like it was time, and then I would just drop a beat at the end. Like I still do that when I'm playing odd meter stuff. It's mostly like you just play and you're putting the downbeats where they go, and then you drop a beat or you add a beat or whatever, and it just feels good and it doesn't sound like it's out of meter, And I never thought about it, or I didn't even know it was an 11. I just would drop a beat because it felt like that's where it needed to drop. Like I didn't know. People asked me what it was in. I was like, I'm not really sure. And then I call it 11 because it's 11 beats, but it's 6 and 5. Really, there's probably a measure 6, then a measure 5, then a measure 6, 5, and then So, and I didn't think about it. It's just that I had to learn how to play it, and that's what felt good to me.
Yeah. It really is like that made me laugh when I was on the way home because like I'm gonna count this. I've never counted this out. And I was like, it's so smooth.
Yeah.
That it's not awkward at all. Like, sometimes when people try to in the jam and we're trying to force odd meter stuff, and you're just like, man, that killed the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It feels like that's a really big compliment because it's like, I don't know, I was playing it, but it like odd meter has to feel good. So like what estimated profit feels good, it's a 7, I mean, alligator's kind of random, even though it's 11, it's like the way they play it, they're all over the place on it usually, but it's still, look at that. Well done. But, but like Caluta on 10 Sumner's Tales I mean, he probably does it to other stuff. That's just what I'm most aware of in his playing. He makes that record, and there's a couple songs in 7, might be 1 and 5. It all feels like it's 4/4, and it all feels amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember talking on Further Festival, actually, John Molo. We were just talking about odd meter, and I'm just like, just make it feel like 4. Like you just have to. Because I was talking to him about, he's like, I don't know, it feels funny or whatever. Or he didn't say it felt funny, but he was talking about estimator or something. I was like, just play it like it's 4. Like it should feel like it's 4. It's got to feel like it's 4.
Yeah, you always make it feel good. And that's like, I think a lot of the skills that I've gotten as a guitarist playing in odd meters from playing to like, like the live records and like playing with like, dude, I have in this closet, I probably have 3 CD booklets of live Mo.
Oh, that's wild. Nice.
And
CD booklets. I just threw out about 500 CDs recently.
Dude, because I still have them.
I know I don't even have a player. Well, they were all because we had a CD player at our pool when it's all wired for sound, old school, like the outdoor rock speakers and everything. So, and then eventually the CD player burned out. And we stopped playing them, and my shed got infested with mice. So there's mouse shit, pee all over everything. So I'm just like, just get rid of it all. I kept a few things because I had a couple of Mo roughs in there and a couple of like a CD of my dad's, a couple of things that I saved, but most of the stuff we just got rid of. So you a lacrosse player by chance? I see the stick.
I did. I grew up a lacrosse player.
So Rob's son plays at Plattsburgh, and he coached for a while, and his daughter is playing for Manhattanville, I think. So it's like you probably should interview him too, because he's big lacrosse guy.
All Mo are all welcome here, my friend. Trust me.
And my daughter's boyfriend was a goalie at Stevenson. He just graduated.
Oh, tight.
So
tight.
Yeah. So
hey,
I never played. I was football, basketball, baseball, but
yeah, I was a basketball player too. But yeah, lacrosse.
I still play. I play 3 times a week, 4 times a week when I can.
Oh, nice, dude. Are you like playing in a league, like a
kind
of a pickup game?
It's a pickup league. It's same guys play all the time. Faculty, like you go to any college and there's a faculty and staff game. So I've been playing in that for like 15 years, and then we have a Tuesday night pickup league too. It's no refs and no actual teams, but it's it's the same 10, 12, 14 guys. So
that's super fun.
My knees and hips are wrecked. I can't walk for crap, but I can run and I can shoot. I still play all the time. Still score a lot of points. I love it.
Who's your favorite?
I don't think I can live without it.
So who's your go-to between, if you're gonna watch a one-on-one game between Bird and Magic, who you're gonna be rooting on?
I fucking hated Bird.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, I guess
I mean I was a Sixers fan.
Oh, okay.
So I hated Bird.
It's funny. I grew up a Celtics fan because my older brother was.
Yeah.
So therefore, I had to. But
yeah,
I will say his love of the Grateful Dead spilled into me, which spilled into everything else.
Yeah.
So like,
it
all works
Bird
out.
was one of the best shots ever. So
it's hard to deny that.
Deb and I, my wife and I, we watch college ball. We don't really watch a whole lot of pro ball. We're
Yeah,
big
we don't either,
Syracuse fans, but like, I don't know. I like the college game better, even though there's blowouts and stuff. It's just more like a team game. There's not one guy scoring all the points, and it's
Oh,
not
dude,
so
yeah.
one-on-one. They actually still play as a team, which I kind of like.
Oh, 100%.
So.
Vinny, I wanted to ask you about when you guys put out Wormwood. That was so interesting to me how you guys did that record. So for people that don't know, you maybe can explain this, but from what I was told through the grapevine, is all of the drum tracks were from live shows, and you guys overdubbed on top of it. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
we got together in a warehouse in somewhere in Long Island, like Ronkonkoma or somewhere, and Rob had a grand vision. So we got a chalkboard or a whiteboard, and he wrote out set lists, and he had this weird like flow chart of songs. So we had like 3 or 4 different set lists of songs and jams and all that stuff. And we're going to go out on the road and we'll record all this stuff like this. They're still improvised and stuff. And we'll create an album out of it, like Waiting for Columbus or some of the other records that have been done where they used live tracks and combined it with studio stuff. We got all the stuff together and edited, there was edits and stuff, but it was the drum tracks were all done live. And then pretty much everything was edited over. I think a lot of the bass stuff I think stayed and just overdubs and fixes on the bass. And then, most of the guitar and percussion stuff was then done in the studio and the vocals. So,
Yeah.
It flows like that. You can hear it in the jams and the, how it works. It definitely, you can hear. It would have been hard to recreate probably. I mean, we would have just had to get the right tracks, but there's an energy to that record for sure. That is you can hear as live, especially in the drums.
Oh yeah, for sure. So. And I will say Bullet I always write ass finger whenever I put it on.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you the story of that name, but it's okay. No. So but yeah, we call it that on the set list. And I love that whole sequence of songs. That whole thing, the way that flows through is pretty fun. When I write set lists, I still put it on a lot, So
I love that.
Not at the moment because Chuck's not here to sing that one, but
yeah.
We're still playing Kyle quite a bit and stuff. So
yeah, I love that song though. There's something about Chuck's tone and the way that was recorded. It's so big and clean. Like when I first heard it,
but dirty.
But
dirty.
No,
dirty
totally. But there was something to me about when I first heard that song. I mean, I heard it live before I heard it on Wormwood, but but I was always kind of like, God damn, like his tone is just gigantic. Like, and I don't remember, I don't know what guitar he was playing. If he was playing his Barbie Strat or if he was playing something else. He might have been playing the Mac and Turf.
A lot of that was the Strat, I think.
Yeah, but man, that you guys, that tonally, sonically, that record is just gorgeous.
I think we had to, if I remember right, we recorded the tracks through a Ramza board on stage, so it didn't have the greatest. The drums didn't sound amazing. So I believe that we put them in a PA and then re-recorded them in the studio. Just like it was the tracks, but just reamped so that we can get a better drum sound. I think Bill Emmons would be he was the engineer on that, so we'd have to ask him. But I'm pretty sure I kind of somewhere in my brain remember that we did some of that with the drums. But the tones, the guitar tones, we ended up doing all the overdubs at Longview, I think, in Massachusetts, which is where we recorded. Where they recorded No Doy before I was in the band.
Right.
So, in the big studio. So
it's interesting too, because if you go back and you listen to No Doy versus Tin Cans versus, Dither versus all the research, you can tell you guys are you're in the sauce, you're trying to find the tones and trying to you're intentionally we want this to sound really, really big. And good.
I didn't know anything about that stuff. I came in and I'm like, what? I play the drums. I never thought about production or producers or anything, but these guys were already well into that. And they had a good producer for No Doy as well. They just had issues with the drums. They almost called in, I don't know if I should say this or not.
You don't have to say anything you don't want to say.
But anyway,
well,
it took quite a while to do the drums on No Doy, and then we had the drums done in a week for Tin Cans, and then Dither was a little different because we recorded that all over the place. We did a lot with Thicket at the theater in New York, and then we did some stuff out in San Francisco with Bill. So we had a bunch of different things for Dither, but that's that record sounds good.
They all sound good. They all sound good.
Oh, we did some stuff at the Carriage House in Connecticut too for that. If I remember correctly. So that was done a lot of different places. So, and then we kind of recreated. Well, it's different, but similar. We were trying to go for a similar thing with the conch, the live stuff. But that was a little more controlled. I think we did a lot of it live in the State Theater in Maine, but without the crowd. So I think we kind of had the same concept, and then we'll play all the stuff live. We'll get a bunch of different tracks and a lot of the in between and the segued stuff, and then we'll do a bunch of overdubbing in that.
Yeah,
if I remember, but my memory's kind of sketchy.
It's all those limo rides, Vinny. It's all of it. It's all the limo rides.
Right.
Hey, right. How do you guys decide like a song like Lazarus? Like, it was around for a while before it was on a record. Like, how do you guys decide when it's the time to like, maybe we should put it on wax?
Some of it, if I remember correctly, some of it is we haven't recorded this either. We don't have enough material, but usually we have enough material. But usually it's like, people love the song. We love the song. Why isn't it on a record if it hasn't been recorded already? And then we do it. And that song, interestingly enough, we did. And then the producer that we had on that record was like, it's the same all the way through. You got to change something. So if you notice on the record, the middle is actually the Ricky Martin jam thing that we do.
Yeah.
So we put that in the middle to make a change. But now that we play it live, we've kind of gone back to the old, we've kind of morphed the two kind of in some ways and play a kind of new morphed version of that, which we've been playing for a while that way. So
yeah,
but it's got a good flow to it. We can get into some good stuff with that song with the way it flows. So.
Yeah, it's got a great groove. Like, you could just jam on that thing for 30 minutes and I'd be fine.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
it's not too different. Kick drum part's different, and there's some different nuances, but it's similar beat to Plane Crash. It's all based on a wah-wah-co, which I play on the kit rather than Jim playing on the congas. Like, we switch parts, except for I'm playing it on the drums, and he's playing what you'd play on a kit on the percussion. So he's doing the bell patterns on the cymbals and stuff, and I'm playing all the conga parts, but on the drums.
Yeah,
so,
that's fun.
That shows you we studied under the same professor for, not that I didn't take a lot of music classes, but one that I did take at UB was with a professor, Charlie Kyle, at UB, and we both studied under him for world music.
Like hand percussion?
Yeah, it was all the parts. So it was the name of the class was Afro-Latin Musical Praxis, and it was congas and bell and clave and guiro. So, and putting all those parts together, like in the salsa, the timbal and stuff, and samba and wah-wah-co, merengue, and a bunch of different things. And we learned, and the guys that were like drummers and percussion players, like, picked up on the stuff immediately and actually became like Latin percussion players because of how he taught it. And, but there was only like 2 of those in every class, and everybody else were just kids taking college classes. So it was kind of like the class would get bogged down, but we learned a lot, and then went on to play in bands with Charlie and others in Buffalo, because it had a great world scene. And then, Jim was able to parlay that to become the percussion player in Mo and have, and do that stuff on top of all the other stuff that he does. So.
Yeah, I love it when you guys get into more of that Afro-Cuban kind of like vibe for a hot minute,
Me too. That's one of my favorite things to do. So like, that's a lot of our solos and stuff are based in that place over rock and roll or over any number of other things. It's like we kind of go into and we write a lot of, we do songs that have a lot of that groove in it, whether it's, even like Jim shit when we play Spine of a Dog, like he integrated the merengue, the in it,
Yeah.
even though it's not a merengue, but his conga part is a merengue, so
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
Ah, it's so great, dude. It's so great. All right, we're running out of time here. I got to look at this list.
Sorry, I told you we would get long, and then not answer any questions, but we'd have a conversation that ended up being.
It's great. It's great. So as far as like the writing process is concerned, like I know for me, for like the different bands that I work with and everything, like I'm primarily the songwriter and singer in all these projects. So like, of course, I'm primarily going to write and arrange stuff. But you guys have a different arrangement where everybody can write and do things.
Correct.
So does somebody so if Al comes up with the tune, does he demo it, send it to you guys, and you're like, oh yeah, I can see how this might be a Mo tune? And like, what's the democracy?
Now, sort of like that has changed with technology. We used to go into rehearsals and someone would have an idea and we'd suss out the idea and we'd make it a song. Now songs come a little more realized, and then we moize them when we get together. Like the demo will come, we'll all get a feel for what it is, then we go in, and of course, the way Rob hears drum parts are not the way I play drum parts, so that'll change. Same with Al. I mean, Al's influence is usually a little more Americana influence, so the drum beats might be a little straighter. With Rob, his ideas are freaking, and Chuck too, his ideas are super, different, so, and I mean, Al has songs like that too, but I mean, his songs will start out sometimes a little more, fleshed out too. But now with GarageBand and Logic and stuff, like you can get songs come fairly realized, which, we used to, again, right, and everybody just come in, put a part, do what you think you should do, whatever. And like, I might put something in and someone would go, that's not at all what I'm thinking, and change the part for me or whatever. Now that they come in semi-realized, I don't mind that at all. I don't have to write my own special part for a song because I'm not the songwriter. If you write a song, and you have this thing in your head, send it so I can get close, and then I'm probably not going to be able to play it that way anyway, so it'll sound like me playing it, of that.
You got to put your fingerprint on it too, that's what makes it Mo.
But it's and we've done that for years. The Mo, we've Moized things. Like you'll hear something and someone will write a song and there'll be this thing, and then it's like, well, we have to do an end, and then we'll put some crazy ending with all sorts of weird counts in it. Or Rob will say, this is cool, what if we do this in the middle? And then that gets put in, and then all of a sudden this song that was one thing becomes a whole other thing because somebody else just puts a part in the middle. Or I'll be like, I can't count it that way, or it feels really bad to me to play it that way, and I'll straighten it out, or I'll play it the way it feels good to me, that is maybe different than the way it was written, but then morphs into the way the song gets done. So so there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And arrangement wise, you'll have this thing and it's like, doesn't work arrangement wise, so why don't we move this part over here or do this? So that's all in the band writing process. But nowadays with technology, a lot of the songs do come in a little more realized than they used to. Usually, we would all just write them together, even though they were somebody's song. Now they come in and it's like, here's the song, and then they just get bandized. They get made into a band song. So
that's my favorite part about listening to the bands that I love, is like you can hear everybody's little fingerprint and influence on it. Like, and like when you're talking about like Chuck's tunes, like it is the weirdest tune. If you really listen to that song, it's a strange, but I love it.
But like, it's a great song.
That's got to scare the crap out of the singers for the harmony in that chorus, man. That is,
but it just comes to get like 20 years of doing it, or however many years. It just is a second nature thing. So
I love that song.
But Chuck has such a great vocal too, and great harmonies that that stuff susses itself out because of it. He's really good at placing everybody in their space. So
does he have perfect pitch?
I don't think so, but I think he's got relative, pretty close to, a lot of stuff bugs him. He's pretty, if he doesn't have it, he's pretty close. because he's constantly like something's out of tune. He's like that doesn't sound right, or it's out of tune, or So
yeah, you gotta have one dude like that in the band.
Yeah. He might. I can't remember, but I don't think because he can't just hit perfect note. But he's close.
Yeah, so. Man. My last question to you would be, what is your favorite and the hardest cover you guys ever decided to play?
I don't know. I don't even remember all our songs.
If you're like, if someone's like, hey, I want to do, let's do this cover. I think this would be really cool. Like if you're going to do something crazy on New Year's Eve, or if you're going to do something for Halloween. Like when I saw you guys play,
I was going to say, I have to say that this last Halloween, doing all the Black Sabbath songs, there was a lot of hard stuff we did, and we hit a lot of it really well. And it was a lot of fun to do. I could pick any number of those songs and say that was the one because it was like, it was like, wow, I always thought these songs were so simple. And then we dive into it. It was like, what, but we got, we did it. So any number of those songs, and that could partially be because that's like where my memory's at this point. Cause I mean, I've played so many covers not in Mo that I love. And then transferring some of them over to Mo. And I mean, shit, my probably, if not my favorite, one of my favorite songs to play cover wise is Ophelia. And it's not a hard song by any means. It's just a freaking amazing song. I love to freaking play it. And so actually I could say that Ophelia is my favorite one, but for today anyway, because it's not a hard song. It's a very simple song. It's just such an amazing freaking song. And the way the band plays it is so great. So,
yeah. Have you ever heard the Wood Brothers version of that?
I don't think I have. Maybe I have, but I don't. Is it sick? They're sick anyway. They're so freaking good.
Jono Ricks is.
Oh, I know.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah, he's a bad dude.
Yeah.
And more than one instrument too. He's just a monster.
And dude, I went to Nashville last October to record a single with my band, and I'll send it to you. You can let me know what you think. But he produced it.
So
we went to the Wood Brothers studio, and I played. It's a song I wrote on piano, and I played guitar on it too. But like, he had like the greatest presence in the studio. Like we did like 3 run-throughs with a click, and he was like, "Hey, you guys, what do you think about not doing it with the click?"
Yeah.
And then as soon as we stopped it, we got the best take.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And we played to the click, and it was fine. And my drummer buried the click, and it sounded great. But he was like, "I think this song needs. It's like a gospel-y kind of.
Got to move, yeah. We tend to bail on the click a lot too, and it's not because of time. My time's pretty good, thank God. But it's just because it has to move sometimes, especially when you get into a solo, and for the energy level to get where you need to get, it's going to jump a click or two to get there, and then. We're all good enough for by the time you get to the chorus or by the time you get back to the verse, things just slides right back into place. It's not, that's from 30 years of playing together too, and playing sets that are an hour and a half long, where you start with meat, you end with meat, and the tempo stays, all the shit in between and everything that happens, you still end up, at the same tempo, or, a couple clicks off and not like 25 clicks off,
Right. Yeah, I mean the taffy, that's part of music, man. That taffy push and pull that's what makes it fun.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
All right, Vinny, I could talk your ear off for another hour, but I'm not going to do that. You got football to watch, my friend.
I was going to say, me too, but the Bills are going to be on. I got to start pre-gaming here, man.
So let's do this lightning round get down real quick. I'm going to put on a metronome at the people's BPM of 112.
Okay.
Just for a little suspense.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you 10 questions.
Okay.
You can explain your answers if you want. Or you can blow
people's tempo is 112, huh?
Nah, it's not the people's tempo. I'm full of shit. But regardless, that's what popped in my head. All right.
Anywhere around 110, I would say is right. So I would guess that you're pretty freaking close.
Right around there. Yeah. I love those hip hop tempos of like 80 to 90, man. All right. Ready? Here we go.
Yep.
Lennon or McCartney?
Shit, dude. Lennon's popping into my head first. Lennon. But McCartney is freaking. I'm going to say McCartney.
Okay. I'm a McCartney guy.
No, I'm going Lennon. Fuck it.
Oh, look at you.
That was the first one. You always stick with your first. Lennon.
You do. You should. Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Okay. Caramel corn or regular popcorn?
Caramel.
Okay. Here's a different one. So Elvin or Buddy Rich.
Elvin.
Between those two. Okay. All right. We
Me,
just talked about this.
I'm a bebopper over a big bander. So
what about if we said Tony?
Elvin's way dirtier than, I mean, Buddy's like perfection. It's just Elvin's like all over the place,
What if we said Tony or Elvin? Where would you go? How would you lean?
I'd go Elvin too with that.
Okay. All right. We just talked about
I'm just more familiar with it. I'd go Philly Joe over both of them, all of them, anytime.
Oh, okay.
Billy Joe Jones I would always pick over any of them. And that just because I like his playing the best of all of them. It's a little more controlled and
So okay. I will
Billy
take
Joe's
that.
My guy.
All right. We just talked about this, but click or no click in the studio?
No click.
All right. Babies dressed as animals or animals dressed as humans. What's cuter?
I'm going to say babies dressed as animals because animals hate being dressed up as humans. They get embarrassed and it's horrible for the animal. Just horrible.
All right. 20-minute jam or a 4-minute banger? What would you prefer in a set list if you saw it coming up?
Depends. I've done both. So, I would love to do a 4-minute banger because I do so many 20-minute jams, except for I could never play in a band that plays 4-minute bangers all night, the same every night, all the time.
Right.
So that's a hard one for me. I would like to do a 4-minute banger every once in a while, but that wouldn't, night after night, I couldn't do it.
Do you think the crowd would be like, what's going on? Or do you think they'd be like, well, this is
well,
different?
With our band, yes, but a lot of people go to bands to see exactly that and have no idea that this other thing even exists that we do. You know what I mean? 100%. So there's even a million drummers out there that play 4-minute bangers all night long and they're killer at it and they don't even know that what we do exists.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah.
All right. What's more fun to see out in the crowd, air guitar or air drums?
I'm a drummer, air drums. I'd be playing air guitar.
Do you see a lot of cats like doing that in the crowd?
If you saw me at a Rush concert, you'd see me playing air, or even Steely Dan. I do mostly of the Steely Dan. I'll just sit there all night and play that.
Now, when you air drum, Vinny, do you traditional or do you matched?
No, I match mostly at this point, unless it's certain things. Like if there's someone swinging, I'll be traditional, but mostly I play match at this point.
All right. Same song title, different groups. Jump by the Pointer Sisters or Van Halen?
Van Halen all day long.
All right. And then here's the last one. Sometimes it's the hardest, sometimes it's the easiest, but it's the most fun. If you could take one record and erase it from your memory, like you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and experience it for the first time again, what record would that be?
That is a freaking hard question.
Yeah.
That's a hard one, dude. I don't know if I can even answer that. So to hear it for the first time is like, holy shit.
Like what album did you love so much that you wish you could Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, remove it so you could go back and hear it again for the first time?
That's a hard one, dude. Some of probably like trying to think of an album that I can just listen to over and over again. It would probably be, believe it or not, it would be like Paul Simon, Rhythm of the Saints or something, because that's like one of my favorite records on the planet. And I still throw it on all the time, but to hear it again for the first time, I'd probably just be like, because it sounds so good and the rhythms are so good and the songs are so good and all the playing on it is just fucking amazing. So,
dude, that's great. No one has ever said a Paul Simon record so far. Over 100 episodes.
Yeah.
No one.
That record that's one of my favorite all-time records. That record is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. That's awesome. I'm happy about that. Yeah. Oh, missed a question here, but like, have you ever played with O'Teal?
I have. Okay. I actually we did. I mean, I think he's played with Mo a few times. But we did back in the early days of summer camp, we used to do these workshops. So I would do drum ones and he did a bass one with Rob, and Rob had asked me to come play the drums on it, I think. And O'Teal was there. And O'Teal and I played a bunch, and we did we did All Blues or something in 3.
Nice.
And we just fucking got cooking on it. And I got done and it was like, that was pretty fucking cool. And I just got to play with Teal. I was like, and I like, it was early on in summer camp. So it was probably like 2004 or 5. So I was like still young enough. And just like, I can't believe I just played with O'Teal and he and I were like, fucking hit it, and it was awesome. He probably doesn't remember, but I do. I'll never forget it. So
that's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
But I think I've played with O'Teal a few times at this point.
It doesn't surprise me at all. Well, Vinny, dude, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking some time to hang out.
Absolutely. Love talking to you anytime you need me back. And if you want, like, just get a hold of me and we'll try to hook you up with Al.
Cool.
And
that'd be great.
Yeah, probably hook you up with Chuck, but I'm not sure he's ready. I mean, he does our podcast with us, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to push him. I want to have him 100% when he's ready to do it. I mean, I love that dude so much, and I want him to feel comfortable. And,
I got you.
But dude, this is such a pleasure, and hang tight, everybody. Go check out mo.org. You can find out all the details, tour dates, merch. Go buy a bunch of merch. Go see them. They're amazing. They're one of my favorite bands. I'm gonna try to get to Philly for New Year's if I can.
Cool, that'd be great. Get a hold of me, man. I'm gonna try to get you some passes so you can come hang after or something.
That'd be killing.
I'll introduce you all the guys because this was a great interview, and I think all of them would enjoy talking to you. You got you're not asking dumb questions. You're talking about music and life, and it's like we all like to talk about music and life. So it's like I think it's a thing, and you're a musician. Not only you're very familiar with our music, but you're also very familiar with all our influences. So like the conversation goes really simple because we all understand the same stuff. So I think everybody would enjoy talking to you. So,
well, that means a lot, man. Thank you so much. And thanks to BV for moderating the chat today. You guys go see Mo. Please go see Mo.
Come see us play.
Absolutely.
We're
fun. Hang tight, man. Everybody take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.